Another beautiful winter's morning here at the Chateau. But we've got a lot to get through this week, so strap in. Like every week, it starts out sedately before evolving into a chaotic scramble. But we try to maintain an air of serenity on screen as we paddle like a duck in a current off camera. Here I'm working on boxing that will hide the bath pipes in the secret bathroom. Don't worry, it will all become clear. Well, today I've started doing the lower part of the boxing for the pipework. For the bath that's going here. As I was working on the boxing down here, I realised that a lot of this plaster is blown, completely blown, to the point where it was pushing in places. I don't know if you can see that moving, but quite a lot of movement there. And even some of these bricks that make up this wall are a little bit loose. So I'm going to have to dig out whatever they used to join the bricks together and fill it with something else that's going to hold them. So for now I'm going to have to take the plaster off to at least here, because this is where the highest crack is, maybe a bit higher, and we'll see how much replastering I've got to do. Now that the wall looked awful, it was time to start grouting the floor. So trying to get a grout that matches in with the existing grout of the floor in here has been really quite tricky, because the colour options seem to be really quite limited in the DIY shops around these parts. And what I bought last time, which I used over around the toilet area, which is where I retiled first, was a pale grey, which you could argue that what's there is a pale grey, but this is paler. And the other option was a dark grey, so it does stand out a bit over there. And I was hoping it would weather in and sort of blend in time, but it hasn't done that over the few months, or 2 months, or however long it's been since I did that tiling. So what I'm going to do now is try combining the two. So I've made up a big pot of the light grey, and I'm just going to sprinkle in a bit of the dark and hope I can change it just a little bit, because I imagine that I could make it go quite dark quite quickly. So I'll see what just a small amount does. And in a way it's me being a little bit pedantic, because it's hardly going to be seen, because the bath will be over it, and so and it's at this end, so there'll be a toilet and then the bath, so it's not really going to be visible, but still it'd be nice to get it right. Jade is strictly adhering to health and safety regulations. How are you getting on today?
Okay, yeah, I think the colour's great. I'm really happy with it. Doing all the more fiddly bits today, but that's okay. It's all good.
And it's going on first coat better this time?
Yeah, it's just since that first day, I just don't think we've mixed the paint properly. It's now absolutely fine. The grippiest of work footwear, the sheep's wool slipper. I'd filled the cavity along the edge of the tiles with expanding foam filler. Now dry, it needed to be cut flat, ready for the boxing. From here on in, my week got incredibly more complicated. Every boxing in job is different, and this one would prove to be the trickiest of the lot. But I didn't know it yet. I genuinely thought getting this section of the boxing finished would be the hardest part of it.
But I was wrong. So getting that lower part of the boxing on is a massive step forward, and I'm really pleased that I've done it. The next thing is to work out exactly where the bath taps are going, get the plumbing sorted behind it, get the support for this part of the boxing done, so that once the taps are in and it can all be covered over, Jane can paint it, then we'll get on. Then I've got this plastering to do where all of this came off and supporting the wall, because this wall seems to have been stuck together with plaster, which not something I've heard of before, but if it works. But what it's left me with is some loose bricks. So I need to get some adhesive of some sort in there that's going to hold them together and not leave me with a wobbly wall. So once the boxing's finished, I can do this, and I can screw this last bit of panelling to the back there, and then we'll be really making some good progress. Jane's catching me up with her painting, so I need to work quickly. The spaniels have escaped. So I've got a little bit of a problem in that this lower part of the boxing, which is attached and is nice and sturdy, which I'm planning to glue along the bottom, it's not perfectly straight. It's leaning inwards towards the wall a bit, and so when I put this part of the boxing above and have it straight, the two don't match. So I might have to change the thickness or the length of these little noggins to push the wall, to push the lower part of the boxing out a bit, and thereby hopefully straightening the wall up.
So off came the boxing. I had a genius idea to cut the noggins at an angle of 2 or 3 degrees, which helped pull the wayward boxing inwards, and therefore more vertical. First problem solved.
I'm on a bit of a side quest here. I've got to extend the wires from here. This was a plug socket that fed the horrible old toilet that was here, and I need to extend these wires around the corner because we're probably going to have a towel rail over on this wall that will be ultimately dual fuel. So in the summer months, if you need to dry a towel, it can be electric, and in the winter months, hopefully we'll eventually get the central heating going. So I just need to give it a power supply.
Side quest completed, I was finally able to fit the edge piece of the panelling to the wall. All good so far. I deserved a glass of wine, so I had one.
Well, I think we've made some really good progress today. Jane's paint job is coming along really nicely. It's looking really lovely, and she's nearly finished. I mean, I'm sort of in her way now because she wants to repaint this section and this, which is now on, which I'm really happy about. And the boxing, it's coming along nicely. It's taking a lot longer than I would have imagined because I'm having to make it up as I go along. And I don't do boxing every day of my life. So this one has taken a lot of thought, especially is because I've got to get the taps exactly the right height. There's no room for error really with that. But the carcassing of the boxing is in, and it's pretty solid. So I'm really pleased with how it's going so far. Hopefully by the end of this week we will have some really good progress. What I'm struggling with is getting hold of the right size backplate elbows for these taps. But I think I'm done for the day. I'm sick of being on my knees and running up and down the stairs every 5 minutes.
Welcome to Jane's Find of the Day with Jane.
Hello and welcome to this week's Find of the Day at Chateau de Pican. Kittens are not included in the find. Today I'm talking about these brass obelisks. Behind me there's a pair, as you can see, and I have managed to find the exact same ones, or rather I found one being sold with another one which is slightly smaller, described as being vintage Hollywood Regency brass obelisks, And if you've watched a previous episode, the Hollywood Regency period dated from the 1930s and was all about bold colours and lavish interiors and the use of gold and other metals and luxurious fittings. So they've also conformed to that, it seems, in the description. Probably mid-20th century. They're very heavy, they are clearly bold statements, and something I would never have bought, but very in keeping with the Chateau.
I'd found the backplate elbows needed for the bath taps. Another win! And to think I said it was going to be a difficult week.
So that's what the bathtub's going to look like.
Look at my little smug face. As it stands, there is no way to isolate this bathroom from the mains water supply, a problem I plan to remedy soon. However, for now, I needed to isolate the water from the whole chateau. I'd just connected the hot pipe and was halfway through the cold when I realised that I'd neglected to buy pipe inserts. These are essential with push-fit fittings, as any bend in the pipe near the fitting could cause the pipe to deform in the fitting, thereby causing a water leak. And water leaks do damage. So off to the shops I went, leaving Jane at home in a chateau with no running water. An hour later I was back. Jane was having a lack of tea crisis and the pressure was on. Even with the pipes connected, I still couldn't turn the water back on until the taps were fitted. I was ready for it though. Tape the tap tails, paste the thread and screw hard, said the actress to the bishop. Oh, didn't he do well? But he's missed a bit.
I thought I'd finished this, but I didn't put them on.
Still no mains water? No flushing toilets? No cups of tea? We can't live like this. We're not animals. Taps off, tails off, remove and replace PTFE tape. Start again. This time it worked. I could finally move on to another job and have a cup of tea.
Everything seems fine, over.
Hello, we interrupt your programme with news that a strange woman has been seen outside a chateau in southwestern France. This poor soul is unable to dress herself and was seen covered in mud from head to foot. One eyewitness said she looked like she'd escaped from a local asylum and had been walking across muddy fields all night under the delusion that she lives in a chateau. When asked, the woman said there was an early morning hay delivery and then the hay truck got stuck in the mud and I had to help to push it out. Whilst the authorities try to verify this version of events, we recommend that this woman should not be approached.
So this is my new tool. I've bought myself a table saw, and it comes with a plastic stick. And the plastic stick is to stop you chopping your own fingers off by mistake. Anyway, I'm going to try it out.
For those keen-eyed workshop warriors out there, you may have noticed that I'd forgotten to adjust the blade height for the wood thickness. Rest assured, it won't be the last time I forget. The piece of wood I'm machining will be the top surface of the boxing, where one's champagne glass might sit when you're in the bath, so it needs to look perfect. Since I don't have a good workbench set up here, perfection will be a relative term. Because the colour scheme of the secret bathroom is changing from how we found it, we're not happy with the colour of the wood surfaces, this one, the basins and the shelf. So I've set about using a carbide scraper to take the top surface off the wood. This will make sanding it back to clean wood that much easier. From there we can decide what tone will work best with the paint that Jane is using. I used to have a little mouse detail sander that would have been perfect for the edges, but I don't think it made it to France. This is one of the sides to the boxing which I'd scribed ready to neatly cut out the shape. This time I really needed a bandsaw, but I don't have one, so I left the blade set high to get a cut through the wood closer to vertical. Make sense? I'll just go with it. This time I did forget to lower the blade. Also, I'm not using the straight edge guard because the wood needed to be cut at a slight angle. Anyway, there should probably be a disclaimer that this isn't best practice, so don't do this at home, kids. Pretty straight, if I do say so myself. This was the moment, whilst trying to fit the freshly cut pine panels, that I realised I really had a problem. The boxing's version of vertical was geometrically different to the real world's version. I spent a few minutes desperately trying to find an easy way to solve the issue, which included unscrewing an impossible to reach screw, before admitting that it was quite a large boo-boo and I'd have to take everything apart. In a time-lapse nutshell, the boxing for the taps was slightly off 90 degrees, which meant adding packers to the bottom of one side to correct the angle. This couldn't be done without removing the tap again and dismantling. Still, it had to be done. I then found that the backplate elbows were now also out of position and would have to be reset.
I have no idea how Rory found the patience and fortitude to undo his new work without so much as wringing his hands. Boxing in some taps sounds easy, but I'm reminded of the work of Houdini. To create magic takes a lot of work.
So what that messing around means is that now these two side bits of wood are basically level, but it means that this boxing, now I've squared it all up, is several millimeters out. So I'm going to have to chop this off and sand this bit down level to get everything to match. That's frustrating. I really want this to be square because the lid is going to be sitting on this, so I need as much of the top layer as square as possible. Oh, what a setback. Oh, what a real pain. The moment that perhaps none of you have been waiting for.
So in terms of what they might be worth, well, they are almost certainly of American origin, and I found them being sold in the US. And a pair which was not identical to this. They had one which they described as being 17 inches high. I haven't measured this, but could be 17 inches high. Another one was only 14 inches high, and they described that as a pair, but they weren't identical like these. They were asking for the pair $1,450. So really quite a lot. So we won't be getting rid of them.
Pain or not, I whipped out my saw and got cutting. Once done, I sanded it all flat. Surely I was on the home stretch. I wasn't, and don't call me Stretch. The side panels were on and fitting nicely. The problem was, when I offered up the front panel, the backplate elbows didn't match. They'd have to be adjusted again. This time would most definitely be the last time. It had to be. That is the boxing finished. And I think in all honesty, that was one of the trickiest, most awkward jobs I've had to do at the Chateau this far. I had to take everything apart countless times. Well, I could count them because they're all on video. But several times I had to take the plumbing parts apart, turn the water off, redo the boxing. It has been a nightmare, but it is now in. It just needs to be painted up by Jane, and I've got the bottom sections to finish off, and then the paneling that comes around here, and a bit of plastering on the wall there, and then Jane can get onto the wallpapering. So we are headed in the right direction, and I couldn't be happier that this bit is over. I'm really pleased with it though.
Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed it, why not watch another one of our videos?